Hello and welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. Today we're talking about and looking at 4 big promises that Donald Trump made, 4 big failed promises and where they stand today. First, let's take a look at Ukraine war. Donald Trump believed that he could end this war in 24 hours. But it's been more than 100 days in office and his efforts have frustrated him. So much so that we've seen a to and fro between Kremlin and President Trump, the latest being just moments ago on Truth Social. He's posted, and I quote, "What Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia, and I mean really bad. He's playing with fire." That's what the post says. Now, Donald Trump upping the ante, warning Putin of playing with fire. Russia continues to strike Ukraine, even as these statements are coming from Washington, D.C., from none other than the U.S. president. They're striking Ukrainian cities and villages with drones and missiles, while it claims to be working on a peace deal.
Russia continues to develop a draft memorandum regarding a future peace treaty with Ukraine, defining a number of positions such as principles of settlement, timeframes for possible peace agreement, a potential ceasefire for a certain period of time in case. I emphasize, as soon as the memorandum is prepared, it will be sent to Kyiv. We expect that Ukrainian side is doing the work and will send us its draft simultaneously with the receipt of the Russian document.
Tuesday morning, Russian drones and aerial bombs hit the city of Sumy in Ukraine.
No windows are left. The entrance door has been blown away. The slate roofing material is broken. Everyone is alive. We are stressed, very stressed. We have taken them to their grandmother.
Industrial facilities, residential buildings and cars in Sumy and nearby districts were damaged. Ukrainian air defenses claim to have shot down 43 out of 60 Russian drones launched overnight across the country. The war rages on as prisoners of war were exchanged over the weekend. But not all get to return. Serhiy was captured by the Russian army in Mariupol in 2022 together with thousands of other Ukrainian soldiers. In August 2022, his family received a letter from Serhiy. They also found this video published on Russian social media. Contrary to what he wrote in his letter, he visibly wasn't doing well. And that was the last time he was seen alive.
The Red Cross called us to say that his condition was satisfactory. They called us again a year later to say that his condition was satisfactory, but he was no longer alive. The Red Cross called us in August and he died in May. But when the Red Cross called us for a second time, they said his condition is satisfactory. We hoped that he was well and thought he was alive, but he was already gone by then.
The bodies of former prisoners of war that arrived in the Kiev mortuary are dressed in prison uniforms and are often mutilated and decomposed. Of the roughly 4,000 prisoners of war, Russia has repatriated to Ukraine at least 206 died in captivity. Serhiy was one of them. An additional 245 Ukrainian prisoners of war were killed by Russian soldiers on the battlefield, according to Ukrainian prosecutors. The toll of dead prisoners of war is expected to rise as more bodies are returned and identified. Ukraine is working hard to pile all evidence of war crime against Russia. The Kremlin, on the other hand, justifies the current escalation of drone and missile attack on Ukraine as retaliation to Kiev's drone attack that reached Moscow. They claim to be working on a draft peace treaty of their own while the war goes on. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, are the plans to win the Nobel Peace Prize? While we're looking at what President Trump is doing, and there is no official word on it, it is not something that he's not intended. During his presidential campaign, President Donald Trump said repeatedly that he would be able to end the war between Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours upon taking office. After returning to the presidency in January 2025, Trump immediately pushed for a renewed peace negotiation. He personally contacted both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin, advocating for direct talks and proposing a 30-day general ceasefire as a starting point for broader negotiations. On 28th of February, a public showdown happened in the Oval Office when President Zelensky came calling to finalize the rare earth minerals deal. It was indeed a historic moment.
This war would have never happened. We would have had a deal negotiated for you without having to go through.
Yes,
you don't
God
know that.
bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering all
position
these
to
questions.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're
doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
Well, does it seem like after such a conversation there could have been an immediate resolution? Trump's administration has not secured a lasting ceasefire or a peace agreement between the two countries. Now frustrated, he posted on social media yet again calling Vladimir Putin crazy.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Президент Трамп, он человек,
US President Donald Trump is a person who wants a result, and when he sees that, his efforts to promote the settlement as they agreed with Russian President Vladimir Putin, including the meeting in Istanbul, including the accord to exchange memorandums between Russia and Ukraine, which will contain not just baseless demands as smokescreen for continuation of aggressive anti-Russian policy, but the specific components for solution of the issue aimed at elimination of the root causes.
антироссийской политики, а конкретные компоненты.
Now that was failed attempt 1. Let's talk about the second failed attempt, and which continues to be a complete failure. Unhappy with the way Israel-Hamas war is unfolding, the allies are leaving him. It was UK, France, Canada. Now, Germany's foreign minister has threatened unspecified measures against Israel on Tuesday. Germany, along with the United States, had long remained in support of Israel's conduct since the 7th of October 2023 attacks by Hamas, even when Israel became increasingly isolated internationally. But as ceasefire or peace talks seem a distant dream, allies, one by one, are turning their back, not just on Israel, but also on the Trump administration. Blockade and incessant strike by Israel has pushed Gaza to a desperate situation where it is now on the verge of starvation.
170 trucks with food, medicine and medical supplies crossed into Gaza Strip from the Kerem Shalom border on Monday. These were from the UN and other aid agencies, but the demand is 608 trucks daily to fight hunger and starvation in Gaza. In the absence of enough aid and months of blockade, most Gazans now search through trash bags, desperately scavenging for scraps of food to feed themselves and their families.
We are searching in the trash for food. We are dying of hunger. We don't have bread or food or eat from the trash. If we don't eat, we'll die. Nobody cares about us. What can I do?
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, backed by the US, is slated by Israel to take over aid distribution in Gaza. Though they are ready to start operation, the UN and most humanitarian groups oppose this plan.
The current scheme that is proposed, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, appears to be an attempt for Israel to be able to supply just enough humanitarian aid to keep individuals alive who are not in any way associated with Hamas and to prevent Hamas from getting any access to any relief food at all.
Would be a bit of a repetition. As we have explained many times, we do not participate in this modality for the reasons that we have given. It is a distraction from what is actually needed, which is a reopening of all the crossings into Gaza, a secure environment within Gaza, and faster facilitation of permissions and final approvals of all the emergency supplies that we have just outside the border and needs to get in.
The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation began distributing supplies in Gaza from Monday. It is expected to wrest aid distribution away from aid groups led by the UN.
The proposed scheme under the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation provides less. It will have, in the first phase, about 4 distribution centres, down from 400. In the second phase, it may expand that number. The ration that they are providing is less than the humanitarian ration provided by the United Nations. None of the specialized services, such as supplementary therapeutic feeding for malnourished children, are part of this package. These are all the reasons why the United Nations and most professional humanitarians are very critical of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation scheme.
On top of the non-stop Israeli military strikes, Gaza is looking at starvation. This has pushed Hamas to desperately look for an opening. On Monday, a Palestinian official said that Hamas has agreed to a proposal by US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff for a Gaza ceasefire. Israel denied that the proposal was Washington's and added that no Israeli government could accept it. The said proposal received by Hamas through mediators would see the release of 10 hostages and a 70-day ceasefire. Steve Witkoff also rejected the notion that Hamas had accepted his offer for a hostage deal and a ceasefire in Gaza. The war and the starvation spells doom for Gaza, the world's largest open prison. Bureau Report, India Today.
In the Russia-Ukraine conflict, he humiliated Zelensky. But here, in the Israel-Hamas conflict, he's humiliated the whole of Gaza itself by talking about a Riviera. Now, ending the Israel-Hamas conflict was part of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. Trump claimed he would achieve lasting peace in the Middle East and suggested that the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack on Israel would never have occurred if he had been president. As soon as he was elected, even before his inauguration, Trump's administration, in coordination with the outgoing Biden team, helped broker a temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas at the start of his term. This led to the release of 33 hostages and about 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. Trump promised strong backing for Israel to finish the job against Hamas, while also expressing a desire to end the war. He promised to build a Riviera in Gaza once the war was over.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site, and get rid of the destroyed buildings. And I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad, this could be so magnificent.
We'll take over it, we'll own it. Now, Donald Trump also took credit for an epic ceasefire in Gaza in January 2025 tied to hostage releases. But it collapsed by March 2025 after Israel resumed airstrikes, killing over 400 Palestinians in one night. And it continues. Now, not only the Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas war. The third failed attempt of Donald Trump, which he claims to be a victory, but it isn't, is when post-Pahalgam, India launched Operation Sindoor. The US president claimed his own share of fame to mediate a ceasefire. Within hours of the first strike of Operation Sindoor, the US president put his hat in the ring by saying he wants both the neighboring countries to stop the war.
Oh, it's so terrible. My position is I get along with both. I know both very well, and I want to see them work it out. I want to see them stop. And hopefully they can stop now. They've gone tit for tat, so hopefully they can stop now. But I know both. We get along with both countries very well, good relationships with both, and I want to see it stop. And if I can do anything to help, I will be there.
On the 10th of May, the US president was the first to reveal that there was a possible ceasefire between India and Pakistan, and he claimed it on Truth Social. He said, or he posted, and I quote, "After a long night of talks mediated by the United States of America, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence." His ability to jump in and claim credit for the conflict was welcomed by Pakistan on the one hand, but not India. India continued to maintain that they did not accept any kind of mediation or third-party intervention. But that can hardly bother the American president. A day later, on the 11th of May, he once again posted on Truth Social claiming credit for mediation between the two nuclear-armed neighbors.
On Saturday, my administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire, I think a permanent one, between India and Pakistan, ending a dangerous conflict of two nations with lots of nuclear weapons. And they were going at it hot and heavy, and it was seemingly not going to stop. And I'm very proud to let you know that the leadership of India and Pakistan was unwavering, powerful, but unwavering in both cases, and having these, they really were, from the standpoint of having the strength and the wisdom and fortitude to fully know and to understand the gravity of the situation. And we helped a lot. And we helped also with trade. I said, come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade. People have never really used trade the way I used it. That I can tell you. And all of a sudden they said, I think we're going to stop. And they have. And they did it for a lot of reasons, but trade is a big one. We're going to do a lot of trade with Pakistan. We're going to do a lot of trade with India. We're negotiating with India right now. We're going to be soon negotiating with Pakistan. And we stopped the nuclear conflict. I think it could have been a bad nuclear war. Millions of people could have been killed, so I'm very proud of that.
Weaponizing trade. He threatened India, according to him, with trade and how that could impact the tariff and trade talks between India and the United States of America. But every time the United States of America claimed, or particularly President Trump claimed, that he brokered peace or ceasefire between India and Pakistan, India refuted those claims in no uncertain terms. Listen into just one of those rebuttals by External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar.
And where was the U.S. in this process?
Well, the U.S. was in the United States. I mean, obviously there were U.S. Secretary of State Rubio and Vice President Vance had called up. Rubio had spoken to me. Vance had spoken to our Prime Minister. They had their view, and they were talking to us, and they were talking to the Pakistanis, as indeed were some other countries. Yeah. I mean, the United States was not alone in this. I think there were some countries in the Gulf. There were some others as well. Mm-hmm. That happens naturally. When two countries are engaged in a conflict.
And the fourth and final failed attempt by Donald Trump. We've been looking at his threats, weaponizing of trade. Let's take a look at the war that US President Donald Trump has declared on the world when it comes to tariffs. Trump escalated his tariff promises in his presidential election campaigns all through 2024, pledging even larger tariffs than in his first term, including 60% on China, 100% on Mexico, and 20% on all other countries. Roughly 2 months after the inauguration of his second term on the 2nd of April, Trump declared a national emergency, citing the persistent U.S. trade deficit, and imposed a baseline 10% tariff on all imports effective April 5th, 2025.
The office of President of the United States.
April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. We're going to make it wealthy, good and wealthy. For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen, we have a lot of them here with us today. They really suffered gravely. They watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. We had an American dream that you don't hear so much about. You did 4 years ago, and you are now, but you don't too often, and for many years and decades even, you didn't hear too much about. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen.
He threatened the world with tariffs only now to walk back on those threats. Let's talk about what he did. He announced higher tariffs on 57 countries, including an effective 54% tariff on Chinese goods when combined with existing tariffs. China, European Union, and India were his main targets.
If you look at that, China, first row, China, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything, but now we're going to charge.
The US and China ramped up huge tariffs against one another in recent months, but have now reached an agreement for significant reductions, particularly from DC's part. In response to US tariff of 145%, China slapped a 125% tariff. However, the US and China now have both suspended all but 10% of their Liberation Day tariffs for 90 days, starting on the 14th of May. They have cancelled other retaliatory levies. That's a walk back. Trump has said he's recommending a 50% tariff on all goods from the European Union being imported to the United States. He initially proposed a 20% tariff on most EU goods, but halved it to 10% until 8th of July to allow time for talks. That's how he's handled the European Union and the big threat coming America's way from China. But when it comes to India, the US president repeatedly says that he enjoys great relations with Indian Prime Minister Modi, but calls India the tariff king in the same breath.
Well, India's been, to us, just about the highest tariffed nation anywhere in the world. They've been very strong on tariffs, and I don't blame them necessarily, but it's a different way of doing business. It's very hard to sell into India because they have trade barriers, very strong tariffs. We are right now a reciprocal nation. We are going to, if it's India or if it's somebody else with low tariffs, we're going to have the same. We're going to have whatever India charges, we're charging them. Whatever another country charges, we're charging them.
Huge difference in how Trump is handling the West, Europe, and how he's looking at India and one of the most important and emerging markets in the world. India is pushing hard for full exemption from the 26% reciprocal tariff the US imposed on the 2nd of April, currently suspended for 90 days. But while the countdown continues, Indian exports still face a 10% baseline tariff, and New Delhi is keen to get that lifted too. With that, it's time to wrap this edition of World Today. And today we leave you with visuals that have science and combat all punched in one. These are visuals from the world's first humanoid robot boxing competition held at Hangzhou City in East China. The high-tech G1 robots have now developed the skills needed to execute basic combat moves and various combination actions, including jabs, hooks, and kicks. Operators control the robots using voice commands and remote controls from ringside. This allows for real-time human-robot collaboration. Goodbye and take care.